The Capitol dome loomed over Washington like a storm cloud as the tension inside the House chamber reached a boiling point. It was the most anticipated hearing of the year, a special joint session on ethics, climate funding, and misinformation. And sitting opposite each other, separated by a narrow row of mahogany desks but a political chasm miles wide, were two of America's most polarizing figures, Donald J. Trump and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Trump, recently reinstated into the political spotlight after months of rallying his base, sat back with his signature smirk. He wore a navy suit, red tie, and the air of someone who believed the room belonged to him. AOC, in contrast, leaned slightly forward, eyes locked, clutching a folder marked Evidence, Public Record. Her expression was unreadable. Calm, maybe, but something sharper burned beneath the surface. The moderator gavelled the session into order. "Mr. Trump," AOC began, voice clear and cutting, "you've repeatedly denied any knowledge of the 2022 environmental rollbacks. Yet here," she held up a printed internal memo, "is your direct authorization, signed, dated, and emailed to 3 agencies." Murmurs swept through the chamber. Trump chuckled into the microphone. "That," he said, waving dismissively, "is a forgery, cooked up by desperate socialists who can't handle reality." "You're lying," AOC snapped, slamming the folder onto the desk. "And the American people deserve better than this circus." A visible shift rippled through the room. Members of Congress glanced around. Cameras zoomed in. A woman in the gallery gasped audibly. Trump narrowed his eyes. "Don't point fingers, sweetheart. When you've actually built something, we'll talk." AOC didn't flinch. "I built policy. You built lawsuits." That was the moment the crowd truly reacted. A collective gasp, then nervous laughter. The speaker's gavel struck hard. "Order! Order in the chamber!" And still, AOC and Trump locked eyes, like duelists before a gunshot. The air inside the chamber turned heavy, not from heat, but from a silence that was dangerously loaded. Even seasoned Congress members, used to political theater, seemed unsure whether they were watching a debate or a detonation. The speaker leaned in, attempting to steer the hearing back to order, but the momentum had already shifted. This was no longer just a panel. It was a showdown. Trump adjusted his microphone. "Let me be clear," he said, his voice slower now, carefully measured. "This country doesn't need another radical ideologue shouting from the rooftops about unicorn economics. It needs jobs, it needs borders, and it needs leaders, not angry bartenders with TikTok followers." A few Republican members laughed. AOC's hands slowly curled into fists, her nails pressing into her palms. But her face? Stone. "Mr. Trump," she said, voice now chillingly calm, "your version of leadership bankrupts dignity. You mock my background because it terrifies you. You built towers for billionaires. I built trust in communities you wouldn't dare walk through." A wave of low oohs rippled through the audience. A C-SPAN producer motioned to his crew. Focus all cameras on her. On him. This was live gold. Trump leaned forward, elbows on the desk, eyes narrowed. "You built nothing, Congresswoman. You tweet, you accuse, but you have no clue what it means to lead a nation in crisis." AOC raised her hand and dropped a thick folder of reports on the desk. "These are your crisis outcomes, Mr. Trump. Real numbers. Lives lost. Forests burned. Immigrant children caged. And every page bears your name." The room went deathly still. He reached for the papers, skimming them with exaggerated disinterest. "Fake. Just like your green new scam." That was it. AOC rose to her feet. "Say it again," she said, voice like steel. "I said scam," Trump barked, matching her stance. "Good," she said. "Then let history know you mocked a plan to save the planet. On the record, under oath." Phones came out. Recordings began. The internet would soon catch fire. And somewhere backstage, an aide whispered, "This just became the most watched hearing in years." The speaker tried once more to restore order, but it was too late. Decorum had already been shattered. Every camera was glued to the floor, every eye on AOC and Trump. But in the shadows of the gallery, a new ripple began to stir. A voice, sharp and Southern-accented, echoed from the witness seating area. "If we're talking about real damage, maybe y'all should take a look at the $93 trillion price tag she's dreaming up." The room twisted. It was representative. Marjorie Taylor Greene, standing without permission, a stack of her own papers in hand. She stepped forward with a theatrical flourish, joining Trump's side like a chess piece moved into position. Trump smirked. "Now it's a party." AOC didn't flinch. "Ah, the conspiracy caucus just clocked in." The crowd murmured, shifting in their seats, anticipating a three-way collision. Greene barked, "You want to talk about climate? Maybe start by turning off your private jet campaign tours before preaching to farmers who work sunrise to sundown." AOC turned, folding her arms. "You don't speak for farmers. You speak for corporations who poison their water and blame the EPA when their kids get sick." Trump raised a hand. Ladies, save the drama for Twitter." "No," AOC snapped. "Let's keep it right here, on record, in this room, where your lies can't hide behind retweets." Greene approached the desk, slapping her documents down. "You want to play records? Let's talk about the rising crime in your district. The money funneled into useless programs. You stand there screaming fascist, while your policies turn cities into chaos." "I fight for those cities," AOC countered. "You fight for photo ops and fear." Trump leaned back, hands behind his head, grinning. "And yet, she's still trending under #RadicalQueen." Greene chuckled. AOC leaned in. "That's fine, because while you trend, I legislate. While you posture, I pass bills. And while you two ride headlines, I remind the people who's actually working." The tension was now electric. Three figures locked in ideological warfare. And across the country, millions were watching, some with popcorn, some with rage. And yet, the storm was just beginning. Just as Marjorie Taylor Greene prepared to fire off another accusation, the chamber's rear door creaked open. The sound was soft, but its effect immediate. Every head turned. A new presence entered the room, calm, calculated, and carrying his own brand of disruption. Senator Bernie Sanders. He didn't speak right away. He didn't have to. His entrance alone silenced the heat like ice on fire. Greene rolled her eyes. Trump muttered something under his breath. AOC, for the first time in the session, allowed herself the smallest smile. Bernie walked slowly to the center table, his hands clasped behind his back. "Madam Speaker," he said gruffly, "I was not scheduled to speak today, but I request the floor." The Speaker, clearly caught off guard, hesitated, then nodded. "Senator Sanders, proceed." He turned to face Trump and Greene. "I've been listening backstage, and I must say, watching this unfold is like watching a Broadway play written by fossil fuel lobbyists." Trump scoffed. "Oh, great! The socialist from Vermont is here to pass out free Teslas." Bernie didn't even blink. "No, Donald. I'm here to remind America that leadership is not a circus act. It's not about who can yell the loudest, insult the cleverest, or trend the longest. It's about who can deliver for the people struggling to pay rent, to feed their families, to survive another flood, another fire, another failure of government." The air thickened again. Marjorie shot back. You mean the kind of government you and AOC want to expand so it can tell us what cars to drive, what stoves to cook on, and what words we can say? Bernie raised a finger. What we're telling you, Congresswoman, is that freedom without responsibility is chaos, and chaos is exactly what you're selling. AOC stepped forward. Thank you, Senator. She turned to Trump. You asked earlier what I built. I built movements. I built coalitions. And most of all, I built hope. Trump leaned forward, sneering. And I built an economy. A real one. And then you burned it, she replied. Phones lit up again. Hashtags exploded. As Trump vs AOC, as Bernie breaks in, political inferno. As Bernie stepped back, Green hissed to Trump, "We need to regain control." But control had already slipped. The hearing had mutated into a televised battlefield of ideology and ego, and now, with three factions on stage, anything could happen. As the room pulsed with energy, the speaker struggled to contain what had become a political earthquake. Before she could gavel order back into the chamber, a low beep echoed from the corner of the room. A staffer, visibly shaken, whispered something to the speaker, then handed her a tablet. "Madam Speaker," the staffer said aloud, his voice trembling slightly, "we have a live call request from the former Vice President of the United States." A murmur swept through the chamber. "Put him through," the speaker said cautiously. The massive screen above the hearing room lit up, and there, seated in front of the Stars and Stripes, appeared Mike Pence, calm, stern, calculated. "Good afternoon," Pence began. "I apologize for the interruption, but after watching this broadcast from my home in Indiana, I felt compelled to address what I can only describe as a moment of national embarrassment." Trump's face twisted. "Oh, here we go." Pence ignored him. "Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, you speak of hope. Senator Sanders, of responsibility. But I watched as this chamber turned into a battleground of slogans. This is not leadership. This is theater." AOC responded without hesitation. "Respectfully, Mr. Pence, silence in the face of crisis isn't leadership either. Theater only happens when the real stage, Congress, fails to act." Green leaned toward her mic. "Save us the lectures, Mike. You couldn't even stand up to your own running mate." Trump exploded. "You got some nerve calling in here like the nation asked for your opinion." Pence didn't blink. "And you have some nerve trying to dismantle the very institutions you once swore to defend." The room fell into stunned silence. It wasn't just Democrats versus Republicans anymore. The fractures had gone deeper, into the heart of the GOP itself. Bernie turned to the speaker. "This has gone beyond protocol. The American people aren't watching a hearing anymore. They're witnessing the fracture of political identity in real time." AOC nodded, then spoke directly to the screen. "Mr. Pence, maybe it is theater. But sometimes, theater is where the truth is finally spoken out loud." Suddenly, alerts popped on screens across the press section. "Breaking. AOC, Trump, Pence, Green clash. In unprecedented hearing. Viewership hits 89 million. Outside, crowds gathered. Not in protest or celebration, but in total, breathless attention. Inside, the speaker took a breath, then finally slammed the gavel. "This hearing is suspended for a 5-minute recess." But everyone knew. No one was going anywhere. The moment the gavel echoed through the chamber, cameras zoomed in again. Viewers didn't blink. What they were witnessing was no longer just a congressional hearing. It had become a war of conviction, ego, and legacy. Trump leaned forward slowly, fingers intertwined, eyes locked on AOC. "You know what your problem is?" he asked, voice low but sharp. "You were never elected to lead. You were elected to yell. That's all you've ever done. Shout, trend, repeat. AOC didn't flinch. And you were elected to serve, not to rule. But every time you opened your mouth, you made the country smaller. The room froze. Journalists stopped typing mid-sentence. Trump smirked. Cute line. But I rebuilt the economy. I secured the border. I kept America strong. You gave us Twitter rants about ice cream and gender pronouns. AOC stood. I gave voice to the people your policies ignored. I stood for climate action while you drilled, burned, and bragged about it. I marched with the working class while you flew over them in gold-plated jets. Trump slammed his hand on the table, rattling a nearby glass of water. I built skylines. And I built resistance, AOC shot back. The speaker didn't even try to intervene anymore. It was too late. The floor belonged to the fire. In the front row, Senator Sanders leaned back, whispering to a stunned intern, "History books will skip the committee minutes, but they'll quote this moment." Suddenly, a new voice chimed in from the gallery. A young staffer from Kansas who had stood up, unable to contain himself. "People outside are chanting," he said. "They're chanting both of your names, not as heroes, as symbols." AOC turned. "Symbols of what?" He hesitated. "Of a broken system, of everything that divides us." That silence, after that sentence, was the loudest sound of the night. Then Trump straightened his tie. "So let's show them what unity looks like," he said with a grin. "You resign, and I walk away quietly." The room burst into laughter. Even Bernie chuckled. AOC's voice was steady. "You first." The headlines were already forming. AOC and Trump face off in epic standoff. Nation watches with bated breath. Capitol turns Coliseum in fiery political duel. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Outside the Capitol, a strange quiet hung over the crowd gathered beneath jumbotrons. Protesters, students, veterans, and tourists alike stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the live feed in disbelief. Inside, the broadcast resumed. A producer's voice crackled into the host's earpiece. 93 million viewers. It's the most watched hearing in U.S. history." The moderator, clearly overwhelmed, addressed the room. "Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, President Trump, the nation is watching. What would each of you say to the American people right now if you had 60 seconds?" AOC didn't hesitate. "I'd say this," she began. "Democracy isn't about a man shouting the loudest. It's not about nostalgia for an America that only worked for a few. It's about all of us, the workers, the students, the nurses, the immigrants, the dreamers. Building something better. Together." The room held its breath. Then Trump raised a hand. "My turn?" he smirked. "Go ahead," said the moderator. He stood and stepped toward the edge of the desk, looking directly into the camera. "America used to be tough. We used to win. We didn't apologize. We didn't hand out medals for feelings. And I'll tell you this, if this country ever needed a comeback, it's now. And I'm the one who can deliver it." Murmurs. Gasps. Then applause. From opposite corners of the room. AOC turned to him slowly. "You're not running a comeback tour. You're trying to escape accountability." Trump smiled coldly. "You say accountability. I say witch hunt." Suddenly, Caroline Leavitt, seated behind Trump, held up a printed sheet. "We've just received internal polling," she announced. "After tonight's debate, 57% of independents say they no longer trust either of you." The room deflated. AOC turned to the moderator. "You wanted a soundbite for America? Here it is. This isn't a debate. It's a broken mirror. And we're all staring into it." Trump crossed his arms. Then maybe it's time to shatter it and build something new. Just then, the screen behind the panel lit up with another alert. Live update. Foreign news outlets now streaming the hearing. Global audience exceeds 230 million. For the first time, even AOC looked unsettled. Outside, the crowd wasn't cheering anymore. They were simply watching, waiting for something neither side had yet delivered. Inside, silence returned. Heavy. Expectant. The world was no longer just listening. It was judging. The silence inside the chamber stretched. Thick, tense, loaded with unsaid words. The moderator glanced nervously toward the producers, but even they had stopped speaking. It was as if the air had changed. AOC broke it. "You want to talk about rebuilding, Mr. Trump?" she said, voice low but sharp. "You had 4 years to do that. Instead, you fueled division, empowered white supremacists, and tried to rewrite the truth with every tweet." Trump didn't flinch. "I rebuilt the economy. I secured borders. I brought jobs home. And you, what have you done besides chase cameras and hashtags?" AOC stepped forward, past her desk. "I've written bills that passed in a divided House. I've stood for working people when no one else would. And I've done it without golden toilets or inherited millions." That landed hard. Trump's jaw tightened. "Keep poking, Congresswoman. We both know I play better when I'm cornered." From the gallery, murmurs grew louder. Staffers began exchanging worried glances. Then Caroline Leavitt spoke again. "Shall we remind the room who tried to overturn an election by calling a mob to the Capitol?" Trump shot her a warning look, but AOC seized it. "You nearly broke the country," she said, her voice trembling not with fear, but rage. "And now you want to act like you're the cure?" Trump laughed, cold, calculated. "You're good at speeches, Cortez, but speeches don't build nations. Power does." The words hung heavy. The studio lights buzzed above. And then, unexpectedly, the moderator placed something on the table. A flash drive. "We've just received footage," he said. "Unseen until now. January 6th, security cam audio. From inside the private chamber." AOC turned pale. Trump stiffened. "Shall we play it?" the moderator asked. Trump's fingers curled into fists. AOC, breathing slowly, nodded. "Yes, let America hear everything." The screen behind them flickered to life. The room froze. No one moved. No one blinked. And outside, across every major city, millions of screens came alive at once, waiting to expose the truth, or bury it forever. The screen glowed with static for a second. Then the footage started rolling. It was grainy, black and white. The camera angle was high, looking down into a dim hallway near the speaker's office. It was January 6th, 2021. No narration, no edits, just the raw sound of America cracking. Footsteps, dozens of them. Then shouting. "Where are they?" A man's voice, desperate, yells, "Find Pence! Find Pelosi!" Then a door slammed shut, and behind it, in a smaller side room, came another voice. Recognizable, sharp, confident. "I told them we needed chaos to stall certification." The room inside the studio gasped. Trump's knuckles whitened on the table. The moderator glanced toward him. "Mr. Trump, is that your voice?" Trump leaned back, stone-faced. "Deep fake. Manufactured garbage." AOC stood. "Play the rest." More audio followed. "Delay the vote. Buy us time. The courts will cover the rest." The clip ended. Silence. Then the gallery erupted, not with applause, not with shouting, but with something worse. Confusion, doubt, panic. Half the staffers grabbed their phones. Tweets were already flying. AOC turned to Trump. "This is who you are. Not a builder, not a patriot, a man who lit a match and blamed the flames on everyone else. Trump stood now, too. You want war, Cortez? Careful. You won't like what you unleash. The moderator cut in, visibly sweating. We need to go to break. No, AOC snapped. No breaks, no edits. Let America see it all. Trump stepped forward, almost nose to nose with her. You think this country will follow you after this circus? They'll call you a traitor before they ever make you a leader. And yet, AOC whispered, it's your voice echoing in that hallway, not mine. The crowd behind the glass divided instantly. Cheers, boos, fists pounding on glass. Backstage, security teams prepared for possible intervention. America wasn't watching a broadcast anymore. It was watching a reckoning. The studio lights flickered once, just once, but it was enough. Security guards positioned themselves along the walls. Producers whispered frantically into headsets. A nationwide feed, still live, still uninterrupted, kept every eye glued to what had become something far more than a debate. Trump stepped back slightly, his expression unreadable. AOC remained planted in place, shoulders square, gaze locked. They weren't just adversaries now. They were embodiments of two Americas, irreconcilable, electric, colliding live on air. The moderator finally spoke. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, former President Trump, the footage. I don't need a narrator, AOC cut in. Her voice was steel. The footage spoke, and millions heard. Trump scoffed. Footage can be faked, but legacies, those are forged in real battles. I rebuilt this country once. I'll do it again, with or without permission. You built walls, AOC replied, and we're tearing them down, not with rage, but with truth. And truth has a longer echo. A loud beep sounded from the side panel. The producers had begun tracking live polls, public opinion shifting in real time. Trust in Trump was plummeting, but something else was rising. Fear. Not of Trump, not of AOC, but of what came next. The moderator was pale now. We're receiving word that the Department of Justice has just issued a statement. They're reviewing the footage aired tonight for further investigation. Trump's face didn't change, but AOC saw it, the twitch at the corner of his eye, the calculus. He turned toward the cameras. Let them investigate, he said. I've faced bigger enemies than justice, and I'm still standing. AOC stepped into frame beside him. So am I, and I won't move. The camera zoomed out. The screen split into live reactions from Times Square, Washington, D.C., Miami, L.A. Millions watching, erupting into debate, fury, celebration. And then, one final shot. Back in the studio, as the credits prepared to roll, Trump and AOC stood shoulder to shoulder, not in unity, but in defiance of one another. The last words belonged to the moderator. Tonight, America saw something rare, unfiltered, unrelenting. And now, the nation must decide, who do we become after this? The feed went black, but no one turned off their screens. Two voices, one stage, and a nation split right down the middle. What happened tonight wasn't just a clash of ideas. It was a revelation. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez exposed the cracks in the system. Donald Trump stood his ground, unshaken. But no matter whose side you're on, one thing is certain. America is watching. And this time, it won't forget. This wasn't politics as usual. This was war. With words,